which is like, are you serious? Like, I don't need any other hurdles. Like, it's hard enough. Like, I cannot even stand up from a sitting position really by myself. And I'm so scared that if I don't go in here and perform, and I did say the word perform correctly, that I'm not going to get my babies. And my sister was even down from Kansas City taking care of me. So she can take care of me. She can take care of my kids. She's my sister. It's like I didn't understand. And so my sister's with me, and we're trying our best to make me look all healed up. Mind you, this is before Christmas. And I just got set on fire October 13th. So we're trying to make me look as healthy as possible to get my kids home. And we get into court, and the judge reads what's going on, and the judge immediately starts going off on little Miss Renee and was like, why does this woman not have her children? Why are her children not with her? Her children need her. I want her children brought to her. By tomorrow morning, you get this woman her children to her. Like, he was so emphatic.
Welcome to Candid Conversations by True Crime Avenue. Here, we share real stories of survival, strength, and justice. In this episode, we hear from Hannah Kendrick of Springfield, Missouri. In 2007, Hannah's life changed forever. Her husband poured gas on her and set her on fire while she slept. Their 3 children were also in the home at the time. Hannah suffered burns on 67% of her body, and her journey to recovery has been long and difficult. Despite the pain, Hannah has chosen to share her story to raise awareness about domestic violence and the lasting impact it can have. She wrote her autobiography, Heroes and Monsters, published in 2022, to shed light on her experience and inspire others. Now, with her ex-husband set to be released soon, Hannah faces new challenges and fears. She wants others to be aware of his crimes. You can read more about Hannah's story and other true crime cases on our blog, truecrimeavenue.com, where we share true crime stories daily. Visit the link in the description to learn more. This is Hannah's story, a story of survival, courage, and the fight for justice. Let's listen. Hi Hannah, thank you so much for joining us today on Candid Conversations. To start, could you tell us a little about your relationship with your husband before the incident? How did you two meet, and what was life like for you both before things changed?
I met Antonio in 1994. I had moved to Springfield from Buffalo, Missouri, and he had actually moved to Springfield from Sikeston, Missouri, and we were the same age. We met through a mutual friend. Actually, it was a friend of mine that he liked. Springfield's got multiple like middle schools and high schools and elementaries, so he was actually trying to sneak into our middle school to hang out with my friend, and that's how I met him. And we had a lot of mutual friends throughout the years. We just kind of ran in the same circles, and we always got along really well. We both loved to laugh, and it was just pure friendship. Around the age of 17, I actually lived in the same apartment complex as him and his oldest child's mother, and we were neighbors. And the friendship went on until August of 2000, when we were 19. We were hanging around each other, and the chemistry just, I don't know, for the first time, something just like changed, and we were very much into each other, but we also were just like saying that we were kind of like friends with benefits, because it was really weird that we'd been friends for so long. But I had gotten a house in October, just a few months later, and he ended up moving in with me. And so that was kind of like the time when we were like, I guess, official. It was December of 2000, and the beginning of it, and I found out that he had cheated on me. So we broke up, and I went and slept with my ex. And then the first week of January, I found out I was pregnant. So I wasn't intending on being with anyone. I was just going to have my kid on my own. I was very financially stable at that time. I had been working in sales since I was 16, and I was actually very good at it. So I wasn't worried about being in a relationship, but Antonio just kept trying, to make things better, and I let him back in because I wanted to give him another chance. And I was about 7 months pregnant the first time he got violent with me. He elbowed me in the face while I was driving, and we did split up. He cried and begged for me to give him another chance, and I did. It was a really rocky road because I had found out that he was doing really hard drugs like crack and meth, and my daughter was born in August of 2001, and then there was no violence. There was definitely issues with him just going out and staying out all night or staying gone for multiple days. And we broke up often and got back together, and things were just kind of crazy. And then it was a few days before my 21st birthday, and we were friends. We had friends that lived in the same apartment complex as us, and his mom actually lived his mom actually lived with my friend right underneath of us. She had moved in there, and he was down there visiting his mom, and my friend came upstairs and told me, I think Tonio and his mom are smoking crack together. And she was extremely mad because she had a child and she was pregnant, and that was not cool. I was ashamed, embarrassed, upset, every emotion you can think of. I was disgusted. I could not believe this. My daughter was everything to me, and I did not want to be with someone who literally it was just disgusting to me. And so when he came upstairs, I asked him about it, and we got into a huge fight, and that was the first time that he literally just was so violent. He threw me down. He busted pictures he took off the wall, a mirror off the wall. He took a mirror off the wall and busted it over my face. He stomped on my chest. He stomped on me. And then he left me. He had pulled the phone cords out of the wall, and he left me in the room on the floor. I was all cut up from the glass, and I was bloody, and he told me to clean myself up and come in the living room and smoke a blunt with him. And I was so scared. I did exactly what he said, and then after we smoked the blunt, we didn't talk or anything, he actually left. And after he left, I ran downstairs to my friend's, where his mother was at, and was banging on my friend's door because I didn't have a phone at the time. So this was 2001. We didn't have oh no, he had ripped the phone cords out of the wall, and I couldn't use our phone. And his mother actually answered the door, and I'm standing there so upset, cut up, bleeding, and she has the audacity to tell me she is sick of us fighting on Friday nights. And I was very disgusted with her. My friend called my mom, who was working the night shift at a local girls' shelter, and my mom immediately came and helped me. I didn't want to go to the cops. I didn't want to go to the hospital. I just wanted to leave. So within 8 hours, my sister in Kansas City came down and got me and my daughter, Kaden, and we moved to Kansas City for a few months And then it was just kind of crazy up there. I really missed being in Springfield, where I had a lot of support and friends. And I missed my mom. Me and my mom were extremely close. She actually lived in the same apartment complex as us. So at this time, I end up moving back to Springfield, and I move in with my mom. And Antonio is still living in our old apartment. So it's the same complex. And it's probably been about 3 or so months, maybe closer to 4 months, since I had been in Springfield. And he had been asking me and begging me to be able to take me out for my 21st birthday that I didn't ever get to celebrate, because I literally had, like, his footprint was bruised in my chest. That's how, like, extreme it was. It was very violent. And, like, thinking about it, I don't even know why after that time I even gave him another chance. But I did let him take me out. And everything was actually going great that night. We were drinking, we were at a pool hall, having great conversation, having a great time. Like, the last thing I remember was somebody coming and picking us up that was a designated driver, and was taking us back home, and everything was, like, more than good. We were happy, we were laughing. I remember passing, like, a fast food restaurant on the way home, and then my very next memory is of being on the ground, and he is above me, just stomping me. And it didn't hurt, but I was just so scared, and it was crazy. He just would not stop kicking me. And it was almost like, I mean, I don't know, I just couldn't feel the pain at that moment. But as soon as he stopped kicking me, his best friend actually, they had pulled him off me and had picked me up off the ground and carried me into my mom's apartment and laid me on the couch and left the door open. I assume he knew that, like, the cops were going to end up coming. I don't even know how long this went on, but I remember him laying me on the couch and leaving the door open. That way, if the cops showed up, they could see me, because I don't believe we had a phone at that time at my mom's house. I honestly, I can't remember if we had a phone or not, but either way, he left the door open, and a cop eventually did come to that door, and I was laying on the couch crying, and I was trying to wipe the blood off my face and gather myself together. I had, like, a rock stuck in the, like, up at the top in between my eyes, above my nose. And the cop shows up and looks in the door at me, and I'm telling him, you know, my child's father just beat the shit out of me, and he's asking me where the guy in the red shorts just went to. And it was weird, because that was the guy that carried me that was his best friend that carried me in and put me on the couch. But they didn't care about helping me. They didn't come back and ask me. They didn't check on me. I don't remember them asking me if I needed any help or anything. I took care of myself, got myself together, and the next day I did go to the hospital. My nose was broke, and from then on we were split up for, like, over a year. Well, actually, I consider when we broke up in March, I consider that whole time period us being broke up, because I just let him take me out for my 21st birthday. Like, we were not back together. We had not been intimate or anything. So, yeah, we had still been broke up since March of 2001. He would not just do anything for me if I needed him to. If I needed diapers or anything, he would make me go and spend time with him. A lot of love bombing. He would come over daily and just take out my trash, because he knew I didn't like taking out the trash. So I filed for child support, and we did a DNA test. I found out my child was not his, and I was not going to be with him. It was a huge relief to me. And then for whatever reason, I fell under his spell, and we were hanging out, and we got intimate, and I became pregnant, and I had my daughter, and then we went on to have another daughter. At one point, I had a miscarriage, and he was very unsupportive. And he had stopped the hard drugs, but the drinking was an everyday thing. And he hadn't gotten violent with me in a really long time. There was actually multiple years. I want to say the next time it was in 2004. We were actually selling marijuana and had drug activity at our house. We both had full-time jobs, but we hustled a little bit to make extra money. And our house got kicked in by the SWAT team. He was at work at the time. I always worked first shift, and then he always would work second shift, so we never had to have a babysitter for the kids. And he was actually on probation at the time. And whenever the SWAT team kicked in, I told them, everything was mine, that I had, I think it was a decent amount of marijuana, and I went to jail. Antonio bonded me out, and when he went to see his probation officer the next time, she told him that he could not be around me because I was looking at some serious charges. And so that was actually the reason we got married. He never proposed to me. We were actually not getting along very well during this time period. We weren't being physical with each other or anything like that, but just him constantly going out and not coming home, me not knowing where he is for multiple days at a time. He'd get off work Friday, and then I wouldn't see him until maybe Monday when he got off work sometimes. And it wasn't all the time. It was just maybe one weekend a month, which is just, too much. But it wasn't an everyday thing. But I was just very irritated. And I don't know what I was thinking. But yeah, we got married, and fast forward to probably it was 2000. It was in the spring of 2006, and we were having a big barbecue. We were very much known for me cooking large meals and barbecuing, you name it. I was all about hosting and just having a good time, especially with the kids. We had a big bounce house that was in our backyard for the kids to jump in, the big ones that you rent. It was actually a friend of ours had bought it on eBay as an investment, and then it just ended up staying in our backyard. And we had a pool back there for the kids, and just every weekend was barbecues and hanging out, and just lots of fun, lots of great memories actually with some really amazing people. There was one time though in the spring of 2006 that we were having one of our barbecues, and we weren't fighting. I have no idea what even was going on besides just laughter and music. And we were all there were several of us playing cards, and I think there was another table playing dominoes. And out of nowhere, Antonio come up to me, and he had a Crown Royal holiday glass full of Hennessy, and he just smashed it over my head. And before I could even get the alcohol out of my eyes to even be able to see anything, his friends had drug him outside and took him out away from me. And I didn't see him for a day or two. And then of course, he came back begging me crying, saying he had no idea why he did what he did. He knows he wasn't arguing. He knows it was his fault. And it was like just crazy to me that there was no reason, just so violent. So to say, talking about all of this now, it makes me feel very stupid because I feel like I should have, seen it coming.
If you're comfortable, could you describe what happened on the day of the attack? I understand this may be difficult, so please only share what feels right for you.
Like right now, as I say this to you, it's like I have this overwhelming feeling of like stupidity and shame. I have no idea why I gave this man chances. Because I guess when the good was good, it was so good. Like, it was so good. But when it was bad, it was literally torture. I'm sorry, I thank God for bringing me through this, because there's no way I'm doing this on my own. There's no way. So in May of 2007, we had went camping, and I know he made me really mad, and I started like cussing at him, and the next thing I know is he's punching me. And his little cousin that was living with us, that was like 15 at the time, actually got in between and wouldn't let Tonio hit me. And I had been drinking, so I waited until it was daylight, and I got the kids and we left. And I left Antonio at the campsite. Actually, when I got home, I had a black eye. And at that time, I was working at an insurance company where I just was really, had really great opportunities, and I was making amazing money. I worked on commission only, and, I was doing it. I was actually quality of the year for setting appointments for the insurance agents for 2006. And that's a huge accomplishment in that field where there's hundreds of us, setting appointments, because it was just a very big honor to get that award. And so I really, really loved my job. And the highest up at our branch would come down and talk to me and tell me that he wanted me to get my insurance license, and he told me I had an amazing career ahead of me, that I would easily make $250,000 that I would easily make $250,000 my first year, and that he was using my calls to get contracts and deals in other cities for leads, and that I was just, he was very proud of me, and I was just really excited about my future. So when Antonio had blacked my eye at the camping trip in May of 2007, and I left him there, he eventually found his way to the house, and he just would cry. He just cried, and begged me to just even let him lay on the floor in the same room as me, because he was so sorry for what he did, and he promised me that he would never ever drink again, because he did not ever want to hurt me again. So he promised me that he would never drink, never use anything again. There would never be any more violence in our relationship. And for me, I do know now that during those time periods, I always, like, blamed his violence on the substances because he was never violent with me when he was sober. We might have had arguments for sure, but never any violence. If anything, like, I was, like, the more angry person. Like, when we were sober, if, I want to take responsibility here, I was definitely not perfect. Um, definitely not perfect. There's so much more in my book that, details and stuff where, I explain everything. But, so I believed him. He had actually, like, went several months with no drinking. We were doing really, really good. In August of 2007, we went and found this really nice house. Ironically, it was really close to the corner of Highway 65 and Sunshine, which is one of a major street here in Springfield, Missouri. It's actually the street that Bass Pro is off of. So, like, we were living on 65 and Sunshine in a really nice home, and I was making $33 an hour. Our 3 kids were, 2 of them were born in August and 1 was born in November. So our kids at that time were 2, 4, and 6 in 2007. And, like, after we moved, we were closer to his job. And I didn't understand why he was coming home from work later every night than what he was when we lived way further. But it wasn't like, it was like 11 minutes, off. It was like, 25 minutes off, 15 minutes off. It was just like random, like, weird times. Like, nothing to be, like, super suspicious of, but just like, just a different pattern, like, around the same time, that your husband or your wife or your significant other comes home, and you're just kind of, like, used to that. Like, I know they'll always be home by 11:30, and so when it's like 11:45, and then the next night it's like 12:05, and then the next night it's like, and you're like, and then they're not saying anything, and then there's gum in the truck all the time, and I'm wondering, like, when did you start chewing gum? But, like, his attitude and everything was decent. Like, we weren't really fighting a lot, and our kids had actually started going to a church that was right down the street from us, and they would ride the Sunday school bus. But I wanted to go to church, and I thought that was like the next thing that we really needed to do in our life, is get God working in our lives in a major way. Like, I had always known that I was God's child. I went to, church my whole life growing up. That was the funnest thing to do every day of the week. And the small town I lived in was go to whatever church service was going on that day. So, like, I literally was baptized in a Baptist church, a Pentecostal church, and a Church of Amazing Grace. So, yeah, to say that I had God in my life, I did. I was not, going in and participating in church services, but I wanted to, and so I was telling Antonio that we need to go to church Sunday morning. Like, we need to go down there and see what the kids are doing and see who the kids are around even. So I started just, like, asking him little questions about, like, the gum and stuff, and I didn't understand it because he never seemed drunk. I never smelled anything on him, but I would say little things here and there, because it was nothing that I could prove. And then a week before October 13th, 2007, I was, like, we had gotten into an argument about it, and he was like, yeah, I am drinking. and you're a stupid bitch for ever thinking that I would quit. And I was in so much rage at that moment that, like, how fucking dare you? And so I go and get all of our wedding pictures and all of our family pictures that we had made. And we had a cherry sleigh bed, and he was laying in the bed because he had came in from days of drinking. So I got all of the family pictures and wedding pictures and went in there and was like yelling at him from the end of the bed. And I was like breaking the pictures and tearing the pictures out of the frames and telling him, that's what I think about you calling me a stupid bitch. Like, you got me fucked up. I make $33 an hour. I have a future ahead of me that does not involve this bullshit. Like, I'm not doing this fucking shit with you. I'm literally done this time. Like, I'm so fucking done. And so he actually didn't have any reaction. He wasn't, like, angry looking at what I was saying. He wasn't excited. Like, there was no, like, no emotion. Just very, almost calm. It was weird. He just kind of let me go off, and he didn't really say nothing. And then, it was like, probably, I think, okay, so that was a Saturday. And I think it was Monday that he told me, you know, all you do is go to work and stay home with the kids. He was like, you need some you time. You pick a night and go out, you know, and I'll watch the kids for you. And I was like, okay, I might do that. And so I contacted a girl that actually was married to a guy that he worked with, because I wanted to be, like, respectful about it. I didn't want to go out with, you know, my hoochie friends that was all single or whatever. And so we went out that Friday, was October 12th. When Antonio got home from work around 11:30, him and his best friend had came to the house and showed up with alcohol. So I knew he was going to be drinking. I was planning on drinking. But I got ready, and he comes in, and, you know, he made sure that, like, he asked me if I had any money, and I did. It was all fine. Like, I left, me and my friend left at probably like midnight to go to the club, and then we went to the after hours club and was probably back home by around 2:30 in the morning. I remember coming in, I remember him and his best friend were in the living room, and they, like, there was empty bottles on the table, fifth bottles, so I knew they had drank quite a bit. And we weren't, like, there was no argument or anything, but it was almost like just negative energy in the air. My friend was upset because she had some alcohol that was in the fridge, and they had drank it, and so she, like, almost immediately left after dropping me off. And I honestly just didn't even want to deal with him as far as, like, talking to him and, like, trying to, like, resolve anything. But I will say my last memories before I went to bed is when I'm walking to the bedroom, as I'm going to the bedroom, taking my shirt off and my clothes off and climbing into bed. And I remember my last thoughts being, well, it's been 7 years. If, you know, he wakes me up later for sex, okay. Like, I remember thinking that. So, that being a very vivid memory, like, tells me that at that moment, like, we were not fighting, and that I was actually even okay with being intimate with him. Even though I was obviously wasted. I hadn't drank since the camping trip that we had went on. So it had been a while since I had had anything. And I went to sleep. The next thing I know, I wake up to, like, coldness and the smell and the taste of gas. And I open my eyes, and I'm wiping the gas out my eyes. And it's like, as soon as I can wipe my eyes, I look up, and Antonio is standing at the end of the bed. And he said, "Now you're gonna die, bitch." And me and the bed just went up like a barbecue pit. I I had a down comforter on me that was extremely thick, and I grabbed it and threw it off of me, and it landed to the left of me, which was close to our closet that had our clothes in it, and the kids were asleep in the room on the other side of that closet. And I remember after I jumped up, putting myself out with my hands, screaming for the fire in the closet. And Antonio was over there putting that fire out. I got myself out and I ran out of the room. I ran down the hallway into the living room. His best friend was sleeping on our couch. I screamed at him and I told him that the bedroom was on fire, or that Tony had set me on fire, the bedroom was on fire. And I grabbed bowls out of the kitchen and threw them at his best friend. And I just stood there screaming, and Tonio walked down the hallway towards me. And when he looked at me, Tonio walked down the hallway towards me, and I looked at him and I said, "You have to take me to the hospital. I won't tell him you did it." And his eyes were just evil. They were dark, dark black and huge. And it was like there was nothing. And he didn't respond or say anything. He just turned around and walked back down the hallway. And in that exact second, I just realized he literally just set you on fire. Run! And I run out the front door and I run to my neighbor's house and I'm banging on the door. And the lady wakes up and I'm screaming for help. And she's telling me that her grandbabies are sleeping. I remember her saying that, and she handed me the phone to call with 911, and as I'm on the phone with 911, I don't even remember what I said on the call, but I do remember just praying, like, "Jesus, hear sirens. Jesus, please let me hear sirens. Jesus, please let me hear sirens." Then I see Tonio run out of the house and jump in our truck, and he is leaving. And after he leaves, I see his best friend come out of the house and get in his car and leave. And I'm like, my kids are in the house, and also my niece was in the home. She was 10 at the time, and the girls were 2, almost 4, and 6. And the next thing I know, as I'm praying, finally I hear sirens. My next memory is as they're putting me, I don't even remember them approaching me, but I remember being on the hospital, like the gurney, and as they were sliding me into the ambulance, I told them Antonio Lamar Draper, Blue 99 Suburban, and that was the last thing. And 6.5 weeks later, they started waking me up. I was burned 67%, and they put me in an induced medical coma to where basically they could do all of the skin grafting and everything, and the surgeries. I can't even tell you how many surgeries they did in that 6.5 weeks. I don't know, but I know that I would wake up to them. I had no idea what was going on, and I would wake up to them just grabbing at me, and looking back, it was them waking me up. Not waking me up. It was them doing my 5 o'clock in the morning bandage changes where they had to debris and scrub my skin. So when you get burned, the main thing besides, I think, respiratory is the risk of infection. So even though I was alive, I had a 28% chance of actually living. And that was ongoing because of the risk of infection that could come at any time and would be what actually what I would have passed away from. Or, to be honest, they kept telling me that I was gonna, die if I didn't quit smoking cigarettes. They told me that I was going to die if I didn't eat enough. And I just was emphatically telling them, at that point when I was able to get up and go outside to smoke, to just, mind their business. And, I was pretty angry, and I would say that anger was a huge driving force for me, because being what seemed like attacked nonstop because of the way they were coming at me doing my bandaging, I guess I would wake up sometimes whenever I wasn't maybe supposed to, and then whenever they did finally decide that they were going to let me wake up, number one, I didn't even know. I woke up in my hospital room, and there were pictures all over the walls of children, and there was a big black cat art painting that I found out later that my little nephew had drawn for me during Halloween while I was in a coma, because this, it happened on October 13th, so he, I guess, sent that for a decoration for Halloween, and it was very sweet, but it terrified me. I honestly believed that I was not even in a hospital. I believed I was in a barn in Salem, Missouri, and I could smell cow feces. I was 100% against the fact that they were trying to tell me that I was in St. John's Hospital, because even when I looked outside the window of the hospital, from what I could see, because I couldn't walk, I had to learn how to walk. When they let me come out of the coma, I couldn't even wiggle my toe. And it reminded me of that movie Kill Bill, where she finally gets in the truck and she's trying to wiggle her toe, and she's telling her toe, to move. I related to that 1,000%, because I thought I needed to escape this place. It was insane, the trauma that I went through, which I now know to be spiritual warfare. They said it was morphine, but I would not agree with that. Not in my experience.
How did you survive the attack, and what happened immediately afterward? What were the physical, emotional, and mental challenges you faced in the days and weeks that followed?
So I'm awake, and I see all these pictures of kids and things, and it's crazy because I recognized one of the shirts that one of my kids was wearing, because it was a shirt that all my kids had worn. And I recognized the shirt, but I didn't even realize that I had kids. It was crazy. I wanted my mom and I wanted my husband. And they were trying to explain to me what was going on, or I guess ask me questions. And then when they would start asking me or saying things to me, I would remember. And I would just kind of remember more. And then it seemed like I would go to sleep and I'd wake up and it would have to kind of be retold to me. So reliving it over and over for a while. Even after I was home from the hospital, I will never forget one morning I woke up and I yelled out, "Tonio, get me a drink." And as soon as I finished, the word drink came out my mouth. All of reality flooded into my mind as I was saying that. And at that moment, I also didn't have my kids home, because the day they let me wake up from the coma, I had 3 specific visitors. The first person who came to visit me was the prosecutor, Jill Patterson. And at this moment, this is literally the first day that I'm awake. So I'm not even believing what these people are telling me. But I do know that he set me on fire. I know that, but it took me Like, let's say I woke up at 7 o'clock, I didn't start, like, really realizing everything was true about that until maybe, like, a few hours later. It took a while for me to comprehend. So when this prosecutor comes in to my hospital room and tells me, like, she's asking me about my husband's best friend, did he have anything to do with it? And I let her know, absolutely not. He didn't have anything to do with it. He was asleep. I'm pretty sure that he would not have been asleep and just been like, oh yeah, Antonio's gonna go set Hannah on fire and I'm just gonna get a few hours of sleep before tomorrow. Like, no. He actually did not have anything to do with it. I was upset that he left the house with the kids in it, but I don't know. I know that he was scared too, but I will say my kids should have came first and he should not have left the house. That did upset me, and I addressed that with him later on. But he was interrogated for over 13 hours, and I fear that if I would have passed and I wouldn't have woke up to tell this prosecutor, he would have been charged as an accessory. And that's not okay, because he didn't do anything. So the prosecutor is basically just asking me questions, and then she tells me that she will not entertain anything less than 60 years. She is going to make sure that he's going to do 60 years. And it sounds so messed up, but in that moment I was like, 60 years? What? Like, what do you mean? And then, like, I'm honestly thinking, like, he set me on fire. He needs to be in a hospital. He is fucking insane. He needs to be in a hospital. Prison? What are they gonna do? He is psychotic. That's not, like, for me, I wanted him to go to a psychiatric facility. And I also thought, as his wife and the victim, survivor that I am, that I have the ability to be able to make some of these decisions. But no, I had no ability to make any decisions. I had no ability to make any decisions over my body. I had no ability to make any decisions over my children, because the very next person who came to see me was someone from Division of Family Services. Oh, little Miss Renee. And she was just a ball of sunshine, let me tell you. She actually had the audacity to tell me that there was no way that I was going to get my kids back for at least 7 to 9 months. That I'm going to be in the hospital for at least 6 to 7 months, and that I am going to have to be able to cook and prepare meals for my children before my children are going to be with me. And my children are going to be in a foster home, because while I was in a coma and my dear mother was taking care of my children and also making trips to the hospital and also doing everything that she always does, fell sick with pneumonia, and this beautiful Division of Family Services lady, Renee, and I am being sarcastic, was at a visit at the house with my kids and my mom was sitting in her recliner and she had fell asleep. And what do you think Renee did? Well, she walked outside and she called the cops, and she called her higher ups and said that it was basically child endangerment, that my mother was supposed to be taking care of my kids and that she fell asleep, and this lady left my kids in there with my mom sleeping. Like, the lady was there visiting with my kids, so while she was visiting with my kids, my mom fell asleep. She also had pneumonia. Like, there was a lot going on there that could have been done differently. But no, what did they want to do? They wanted to put my kids in foster care. That's what they wanted. And they wanted to literally just, like, the most unempathetic person I've ever met, almost. Because you're telling me all this the day I'm waking up, and I can't even wiggle my toe. So you're telling me that I'm not getting my kids back until I can stand up, walk, and cook and prepare meals. What? Like, what? That was so traumatic for me, because my children are everything to me. They are everything to me. And So, I will say right now that Renee was absolutely wrong. I had my kids back within a week of being released from the hospital. They were home for Christmas. And so was I. I did not spend 6 or 7 months in the hospital. I learned how to walk in 3 days, and I got my ass home, and I got my babies back. I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry, but trying to calm down because I want to be able to say this clearly. You know, during this time, they debree your skin every morning, which means they kind of scrub it down with some antibacterial soap. And they basically just kind of like scrub everywhere and rebandage you. They would wake me up and they would take me to a room where there was a tub that was probably, I would say it was at least 6 feet wide and probably 8 to 12 feet long would be a good guesstimate. And because I could not walk, I was like hoisted up, and then they only put me in the tub up to my waist. Not only was I in excruciating pain, I was freezing because I was just, it was overwhelmingly painful. And they scrub you with these brushes. And I watched them put Dilaudid, which is prescription heroin, into my IV. And when I tell you, it might as well have been water. Like, I had one of the nurses that before I actually woke up from the coma, but like I would, I guess, wake up at times, I would immediately start screaming, "What the fuck?" And like as loud as I possibly could, I would scream it because I thought I was being attacked. And there was this one lady, and I remember her voice. She was a very nice Hispanic lady, and she would say, "No, mijo, this is a Christian hospital. We do not say that here. We say, what the fudge?" And so, but like, I didn't see her until I actually woke up. But I would hear her voice whenever I would be screaming. And whenever I would hear her voice, I would calm down enough to at least say, "What the fudge?" And I would just say, "What the fudge?" over and over and over. And only when she was on shift, because she's the only one who asks me to say it like that. I guess, like, I don't know. I needed to scream at that time. And, you know, profanities was always my first choice. So, that she told me later on that I taught her that we as patients we know what's going on. She didn't know that we knew what was going on while they were doing certain things to us, like, apparently. So I guess I taught her something, I don't know, but she was extremely sweet. She was the type of nurse that would come in and touch my hand and start saying, you know, Miss Kendrick, because I never actually changed my last name to Draper. I was never legally a Draper. And, you know, that's crazy because all 3 of my kids are Drapers. But, you know, the nurses that would come into my hospital room and just start doing things to me did not get very good reactions from me. And also, for people in the medical field, if you care about the patients, please try to be empathetic no matter what is going on, because you have no idea what people are going through. And I understand that your jobs are tough, but Lord, the difference between coming in and touching my hand and simply saying, "Miss Kendrick," and telling me what you're about to do, versus just coming in and starting to grab stuff on my body and waking me up that way, like, that's like torture. Like, you're basically like just violating me. And I know that you got to do what you got to do, but come on now. Like, I just, you know, I had some really bad experiences in the hospital, and I had some, you know, amazing humans that were true angels that God sent to help me. There was one nurse that used to work, and when she would come into my room, I would actually smell her come in. And when she would come in, she would sit and talk to me and ask me, like, actually, how was I feeling? And, none of them were asking me, like, how was I feeling? Because I think they knew how I was feeling. And, they just didn't. Like, my doctors really didn't. The thing I kept getting told was, it is what it is. It is what it is. And, yeah. It's the most hated, most hated term ever, but, they're right. It is what it is. And being in the hospital was a whole different, humbling experience. Like, there was a time that they came in and they wanted me to move from my bed and sit in the chair, and I was in pain, and I didn't want to move. And they were also on me constantly about, they wanted me to either drink like a really large milkshake or like an Ensure, and I don't do milk products. I don't do milk. I don't do ice cream. I don't do it. My body doesn't like it. And so I would refuse it, and they just kept coming in and telling me, like, if you don't eat, you're gonna die. And I'm like, I don't think so, so leave me alone. And then they're like, well, we're gonna put a feeding tube in you. And I'm like, I'm probably gonna headbutt you. Like, I was very mean. I was very aggressive. This nurse comes in, though, and she's like, she's an older lady, and she's not in the greatest shape, and she calls in another lady that's not in the greatest shape. And at this time, I weighed like 220 pounds in the beginning, and they wanted to pick me up and put me in the chair, which I didn't fight them, but they dropped me. And when they did, my colostomy bag came out, my catheter came out, my IVs came out. It was bad. It was bad. And I'll never forget laying on that cold hospital floor and knowing there was nothing I could do. I couldn't move my legs. My arms were all burned and bandaged up, and I literally just had to lay there. And I remember hearing a guy come in the room, and he was like, oh no, what happened in here? And I'm laying on the ground, just so broken and so humble and so just, I'm at your mercy. Like, I guess whatever you want to do to me is what we're going to do, because obviously I can't do anything. And so the nurse grabbed a towel. There was like feces on me from the colostomy bag coming out or something. I don't know. I think that's what it was. But she grabs a towel and gets it wet with cold water and literally like wipes it with like her shoe like beside me, and like cleans that up beside me before she gets me off the floor. Like, I laid on that floor for, over 30 minutes. And then when they got me back in my bed, they had to redo my IVs. They had to redo everything. Colostomy had to go back in my butt. Catheter, all of that. And like, they were like mad at me about it. It was crazy. It was wild experience that no one should ever have to endure. So I'm able to walk pretty well with my walker, and I had to go to court, and this is DFS court, where they said that I had to cook and prepare meals before my kids could come home. So I actually went in without my walker because I did not want to show up looking disabled. That was another thing. They kept telling me that I needed to sign up for disability, and I kept telling them that I was not disabled. My job was working on the phones with my voice. That's fine. Like, I would be okay. And that actually was not the case. I don't know. Well, I do believe that at my job that I had, it was commission only. And after I had gotten out of the hospital and gotten somewhat better, I tried to go back to work, and I literally sat on that phone for 3 weeks and did not make any appointments. And it was almost like I could tell that they could hear, like, the anger or the sadness and the brokenness in my voice. And so I just kind of gave up, and finally in August of 2008, I filed for my disability. Or I'm sorry, in July of 2008, I filed for my disability, and I actually got a check in August of 2008. So it was immediate for me, and that is not the case with anyone I've ever met. I've met people that are dealing with stage 4 cancer that are being denied for disability. So it is a true miracle that my disability went through within 30 days. So I'm going into the family court without my walker, and I get in there, and they have these metal chairs that like slope down in the back, which is like, are you serious? Like, I don't need any other hurdles. Like, it's hard enough. Like, I cannot even stand up from a sitting position really by myself, and I'm so scared that if I don't go in here and perform, and I did say the word perform correctly, that I'm not going to get my babies. And my sister was even down from Kansas City taking care of me. So she can take care of me. She can take care of my kids. She's my sister. It's like I didn't understand. And so my sister's with me, and we're trying our best to make me look all healed up. Mind you, this is before Christmas. And I just got set on fire October 13th. So we're trying to make me look as healthy as possible to get my kids home. And we get into court, and the judge reads what's going on, and the judge immediately starts going off on little Miss Renee, and was like, why does this woman not have her children? Why are her children not with her? Her children need her. I want her children brought to her. By tomorrow morning, you get this woman her children to her. Like, he was so emphatic. I was so relieved. I just started bawling. And then it was amazing because the community had really pulled together, and we got adopted that year basically by our town. And not only did my kids come home that very next morning, we had Santa Claus show up. He brought bikes. He brought every toy that was like cool at the time. Like, my kids got all kinds of stuff. They actually brought presents for me and my mom. And I mean, it was the most amazing, worst Christmas I've ever had. But the most amazing, I would say, the most amazing. And it was still going to be a very long road for recovery for me. But having my kids home was like, it was a must. Because I even remember one morning, like, I had actually gotten mad at everyone. And I wanted everyone to leave me alone. And I was really angry. And they had put my bed, and this was before my kids had come home, so it's like it took me a week, but that week seems like a month right now, or at that time it did, looking back, because they tell you just take things day by day, but in that moment of my life, I couldn't take things day by day or even hour by hour. It literally got broke down to second by second, because I couldn't even fathom a minute. Like, I do not wish anyone to ever go through anything like this. And the sad part is, so many people are dealing with situations like this, or have family members or friends. It's such an epidemic of the violence, the people who seem like they're just here to destroy. It's so painful.
What was the legal process like for you? Did your husband face consequences for his actions, and how did that impact you?
So the legal process was really crazy, because, number one, they would not let my children out of DFS custody until I was divorced. Yeah. They could physically be with me, but on paper, they were still in DFS custody. And the crazy thing is, that's always haunted me, because I had a niece that I took in, and I had to go to Division of Family Services court for her while she was in foster care, and she was 16, and her DFS team told the judge that I was not a good fit because my kids had been priorly placed in custody. And I had to advocate for myself because nobody else was going to, and had to interrupt them in court and say, "Your Honor, may I please speak?" And told the judge, "Your Honor, yes, my children were in custody, but it was because my ex-husband set me on fire while I was asleep, and I was burned, and they didn't, they had to. I was in the hospital, and he actually turned himself in that day." And when he went and turned himself in, they didn't even, at first. So a friend of his took him to turn himself in, and at first they were they didn't know, I guess, what he was there for. And then one of the lead detectives walked in and was like, "Oh no, I've been looking for him all day." Because I don't know what time it was, but I got burned 5:30 in the morning, so I'm sure they're looking for him by 6:15 at least, for sure by 6:15. And so I don't know what time of day he went and turned himself in, but they almost weren't going to let him turn himself in. And then the detective was like, "Oh no, I'm looking for you." And I did see in the discovery where his hands had burns and blisters on them from dealing with the fire. And in the discovery, it says the detective asked him, how did he receive the burns on his hands? And he replied, "Well, I had to put her out." No, he did not put me out. He did not come near me. I would have remembered that. I remember too many things from that morning to know for a fact that he did not put me out. The blisters that he got on his hands is from him dealing with the fire in the closet from the blanket that I threw off me. Because the blanket was in flames, and he was dealing with that. I mean, it all happened so fast, but I know for a fact he didn't help put me out. So it bothered me when he said that. But I also didn't know if my memories were 100%. But now, going 18 years later, my memories have never changed. They're always the exact same, nothing more, nothing less. So I'm pretty sure I know what I'm talking about. So at first they wanted him to do, I guess they had charged him with first-degree domestic assault and then armed criminal action. And she wanted to give him, I guess, 30 years on each one. And I want to say, because she said 60 years, that there's a term where they run it together, and there's a term where it's what they call consecutive, where it would be he serves 30 years and then he does another 30 years. But his time ended up being, he pleaded out and took 20 years on both charges, ran concurrent, which is together. So he obviously got time served from the day it happened. So October 13th, 2026, he has a release date, and that will be 19 years to the day. And then he will be on parole for 1 year after that. And I don't know if he has any requirements or what they ask. They have not contacted me at all. The parole board did not contact me, did not even try to contact me at all when he went to see the parole board, which that's a whole other situation that I have to explain. The way my book ends is I was under the impression that Antonio was writing his story and that he wanted to get out of prison and really just try to share his story and help others that might be at risk of doing something like what he did, and that he was going to help other families. And I found out that is absolutely not true as far as his actions, because I did keep contact with him through the phone over the years. It has a lot to do with the fact that my father was very abusive to my mother. My earliest memory, I was 3 years old, and I would wake up at like 5 o'clock in the morning to my dad calling my mother horrible names and saying that he was just going to shoot her. And this was literally daily. And he was very, very, very mean to my mother, very mean to my sisters. I was actually his only child. And in my book, I refer to him as my evil monster hero, because I am the only person in this world that was safe with him. He molested my sister, and he hurt my mom, and did really horrific things. And then I always loved my dad, and I always hated my dad. So it's like, if, I look at my whole life, it was like I was almost set up for this love-hate hero-monster relationship. And that's where my title comes from. And then, myself, I definitely feel like I am capable of being a monster if I am angry enough. And I definitely believe that I am capable of being a hero, and that is what I choose today. I have referred to myself in my book as a monster at times, and at times I did do monstrous things. And I'm not going to sugarcoat that, and I'm not going to defend myself on that. I've made bad decisions. Later on, I got into sex work and dominatrix and did things to earn money, because living off of a monthly Social Security check was not my future. Like, it was not my plan. I was going to be an insurance agent, and then I was going to invest in bottled water, and I wanted to open a drive-in, and I wanted to invest in real estate. I had dreams that looked like an empire being built, and I have built an empire, but it's not the one I thought I was going to build. It's the one God wanted me to build, where I testify about everything that He has brought me through. And when I tell you that my face was the first thing to catch fire, and my hands are what I put myself out with, and I don't have scars on either one. I have scars on the tops of my hands, but I don't have any scars on my hands. One of the visits, when I was finally an outpatient of the burn unit, I went in and was in the waiting room with the other patients, and there was a trend. People were having serious issues with their hands, because it's just like immediate, reaction to use your hands to put yourself out with. They say stop, drop, and roll, but I promise you're gonna put that fire out with your hands. Like, that's just your reaction. And everybody had deformities with their hands. Some of them had lost some of their fingers, needed prosthetics. Some were just really melted looking together. And mine are my hands that I used to put myself out with do not have any scars. And I have scars starting at my ear and up in my chest all the way down to my ankle. Because what wasn't burned was skin graft. And they put pig skin on my back because I didn't have enough skin. And my mama, bless her heart, she asked if she could donate skin. And they don't do human-to-human grafting. They actually use pig skin. And I was also told that St. John's Hospital, where I was here in Springfield, has one of the top phenomenal burn units in the entire United States, or world probably for that fact and matter. We had a doctor at St. John's in the burn unit that had discovered a new way to treat burns or something like that, some kind of burn specialist, and I was exactly where I needed to be. But I give God all of the glory, because it's like the footprints in the sand when I look at my hands. When I was sitting in that waiting room and it came to me and I looked at the bottom of my hands, all I could remember was all the times that I had read the plaque that my mother had in the house with the footprints in the sand of it. With the footprints in the sand, where it tells the story about the one set of footprints in his life, looking back at his hardest times. He only saw one set of footprints in the sand. And he asked Jesus, why was there only one set whenever I was going through the worst times? And he replied to him, because I was carrying you. And I feel that in my soul. I know what a miracle I am. So I do give a lot of credit to our burn unit being extremely amazing. But God is way above science. God is way above science. He is way above statistics. And it's actually really weird, because I've got a lot of attention going on TikTok with my story. Not necessarily on my page, but a creator made a TikTok and it's got like 1.9 million views right now. And there was one comment that stuck out where this lady was like, there is no way that you can get burned like that and be alive. This is a scam. And I commented and said, I assure you that I am alive, and I encourage you to take, 2 to 5 seconds to just research in my page, and you'll know that I'm real. So, I completely understand why people think what they think, but, why people think what they think, but it is what it is, right?
How has this experience shaped your life since then? What message would you like to share with others who may have experienced domestic violence?
If you are in a relationship with someone and they are trying to control you in any way, whether it be what you eat, what you wear, who your friends are, if they don't like you being around your single friends, if they have a problem with your family, basically if they have a problem with people who love and care about you. Because if someone's abusing you and they're narcissistic, or they're whatever term you want to call an abuser, a monster, they do not want people around you that care about you, because they want to be your sole provider, your sole everything. Like, there was one time during that year that me and my ex-husband were broke up, where I had to have my alternator changed on my car. Now, mind you, my ex-husband does not know anything about mechanics, and so it wasn't even a thought in my mind. But I had called like a really good friend of mine that's basically my cousin, and had him come change my alternator. And while he was changing my alternator, Antonio showed up to take my trash out, and then was like asking me why didn't I call him about my alternator. And I said, why would I call you about my alternator? You don't know how to fix them? Like, that's weird. But that's what it was. It was the control. Like, he was upset that I needed someone besides him. When he set me on fire, he was upset because I was making $33 an hour. I was well on my way to becoming an agent, and he knew. I only worked part-time, and I brought home over $1,200 a week. And he worked full-time and barely brought home $300 a week after, working all of that time. So he knew that I did not need him. And I will say, statistics say that it takes, on the average, up to 7 times for someone to leave their abuser. But it doesn't matter. For me, I would say that when they feel like they've lost control and when they feel like you do not need them is the scariest time. So that's why it is always said that the scariest time to leave, the scariest time is when you leave. Because that's when they lose their control. That's when they can't, control your finances. Like, down to telling you what to eat, what to wear. Which none of those were issues with my ex-husband. So it was hard for me. Although he was extremely violent in his acts, I think I always just justified it because he wasn't controlling. He never asked me to stop being friends with any of my friends, especially my friends that are guys. I have a lot of friends that are guys. I've always just, like, one of my very best friends, he's literally my best friend to this day. I can call his wife and be like, hey, I need Orlando right now, and she's going to make him come and help me with whatever. And I was very confused, and I think I still was, even up until just in 2023, which is after I published my book. I think I was still trying to, I guess, see the best in him, and trying to believe that he wanted what I wanted, which was to help other families. And that's just absolutely not the case. After he had seen the parole board, and I found out, like, he got denied and everything, and I asked him, what went on in the parole hearing, and he told me, that they had asked him about me, and that he replied with, well, I have kids with her. And then they told him, this is the stuff that movies are made from, and he didn't speak on anything. The only thing he spoke on was the fact that he graduated college, and just basically all of his accomplishments in prison. And I just want to clarify, in case, it's misunderstood, that, he never had a problem being a productive member in society and working. Yes, back then, we hustled on the side to supplement our income, but we both always worked. Now, I did not work during my pregnancies or right after my kids were born. But shortly after my kids were, 5-6 months, I was right back working. Just because I wanted to be, home with him. I wanted to be home with them, and Tonio supported that. So, I knew I was in a bad relationship. I knew that the relationship was capable of extreme violence because I had already been through some extreme violence with him when, he stomped on me 2 different times. I guess I just always wanted to believe that, he was possessed by a demon and it wasn't really him. And, I talked to a spiritual lady, and we were talking about my ex-husband, and she was like, yeah, you need to tell him that he really needs to look in on books on soul retrieval. He needs to look up books on soul retrieval. And so I did tell him that, and we were in contact up until January of 23, and when we were in contact with each other, and I did keep contact with him through the years. I never paid for one phone call. He paid for every phone call. He's actually doing great in prison, When my mother died in 2021, he donated $100 to the funeral and sent an $80 plant. He has sent me roses on my birthday, and he has been able to help my daughter with her car payment. He has somehow been able to find a way to invest his money, and yeah, he's doing pretty good for being in prison. Whenever my disability check got cut off in this last January of 2025, they stopped giving me my check, and that isn't the first time they've stopped my check, and I'm fighting with them to get my check back. I have no income coming in besides my disability, except now my book, but it comes in quarterly, and right now at current time, I can guarantee you that I have not made more than $400 off my book since 22 when I published it. And so I'm thinking about things and trying to put everything into perspective of, my check got taken from me, and that has got me scared about my insurance and everything. I'm trying to get all of this worked out, but I'm not guaranteed anything. I could be homeless next month, but Mr. Draper definitely has a place to lay his head. He has food every day. There's multiple days I haven't ate throughout the last 18 years. Sometimes because I can't eat, because my anxiety and my insomnia and my PTSD attack me in a way that is debilitating. And I have stayed awake for 5 and 6 days just on anxiety and insomnia and PTSD. The nightmares that I have on a daily basis with my PTSD sometimes, where I smell or taste gas, or I see things going into flames and fire starting, or I smell smoke, or if I see a red gas can, these things trigger me. When I pull into a gas station, I look at every single pump to see if someone is standing there smoking. And if it's safe to go, I'll go in, and then when I come out, heaven forbid if some idiot is sitting on a motorcycle most of the time smoking a cigarette next to a gas pump. Are you kidding me? It is so dangerous. I will never understand. And I have gotten extremely verbally aggressive with people at gas stations. And I understand that they probably think I'm just crazy. But they don't understand that whenever I see them smoking a cigarette next to a gas pump, I see all of us going up into a big giant explosion. And these are not thoughts that I can control. I did eventually in 2018, I got into recovery and I started doing EMDR, and I started really working on myself. I got a sponsor and I worked some steps with my sponsor, and I really was trying to build my foundation and heal myself. And I will say that over the years, it's like when I was in the burn unit and every morning they would debris my skin to keep me clean. But the debris was torturously painful, but it's what was saving my life. My healing process emotionally and mentally is like debrising my soul and my brain. I'm constantly trying to cleanse it. I'm constantly trying to keep it safe. And it's a daily battle. And I don't have a 12/12 date. This is for life for me. I don't have a day where my skin's going to magically come back to normal and I can go in the sun. I cannot be in direct sunlight. It was around 2015. We were homeless for that whole year. I was living in a hotel and I was drinking a lot and abusing my prescription medications, which I haven't even touched on fentanyl, which was one of the medications that I was put on and I started eating my fentanyl after about a year and a half of being on it. It could have only been the devil that made me curious to see what was in this pain patch that lasted for 72 hours. It had to be the devil, because I don't know why I decided one day, instead of just taking my patch off and putting another patch on, for whatever reason, I tore that sucker open and ate that fentanyl. And the next thing I know, I was just addicted to eating 75 milligram fentanyl patches, Xanax bars. It was crazy. I do not know any other reason for why I'm here other than God. There was one day when I got my prescriptions. It was around 2010. I had gotten a title loan on mine and my mom's car. Me and my mother lived together throughout this whole time. We moved in together after I got burned, and we were together until she turned 60, and she met who we call Pawpaw now, who actually is my oldest daughter's best friend's grandpa. And my mother finally met an amazing man, and they got married at 62, and God called my mama home at 66 in November of 21. But my mama was my ride or die. She helped me so much with my kids, and I put her through a lot. And my mother never judged me. My mother was a saint. She really was. I miss her so much physically, although I know she's always with me, and I know I'll be with her again one day. I'm truly blessed. But this particular day, our car, we had gotten a title loan on it, and they had come to repossess our car, and I had just ate a 75 milligram fentanyl patch, and I'm sure at least 3 or 4 Xanax bars, and they're trying to tow our car, and I'm literally holding on to the bumper, trying to hold on to the car, and I'm assuming that my adrenaline started pumping so hard that after they, of course, won the battle and pulled off with the car, that I'm standing there like, well, shit, my car's gone, and now I'm sober. And that's a problem. I don't want to be sober. So I immediately ate another 75 milligram patch and more Xanax, and the next thing I know, I wake up on a ventilator in the hospital. They medically stabilized me and sent me to a psychiatric facility. When I got there, I realized there was a fentanyl patch on the inside of my leg. I immediately went to the bathroom, cut it open, ate it, stuck it back to my leg, and went in the day room and was high as hell. They would not take me off of fentanyl. I finally took myself off against medical advice in 2010. August of 2010 is my clean date from fentanyl. Thank God. And God took that desire away from me. When it comes to pain medication or anything, I cannot even handle it. It makes my stomach so sick. Even like this last October, I had to have oral surgery, emergency oral surgery, and they had to give me certain things. And I did need them at the time, but they just don't do for me what they once did, and I believe that God took that away. And I pray that He, helps me with my drinking issue. I had 3 years in recovery from alcohol, and I did relapse last year. And I don't count my days now. I just count the fact that I'm not going to drink today, and I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I don't plan on drinking tomorrow, but I can't even think that far ahead. So I just tell myself today, no, I am not going to drink. And I try to reach out to other people and share what's on my mind rather than, it's almost like self-mental mutilation, the thoughts that attack me, that are extremely torturing. It's extremely important that you know that if you have breath in you, your life can change. And it can change for the better in an amazing way. And you can be a testimony yourself. I let people know, like, I've been homeless and sitting on the side of the road with a sign begging for money. I've sold my body. I have manipulated. I have lied. I have done horrible things. There's no excuse. But I know right now, today, I'm not that person anymore. And I am a better person to be able to understand what it feels like. The times that I have failed my children, the times that I have failed myself, my children, my mom, everyone, because I wouldn't get out of my own way. I encourage everyone to have a safe place. If you are in a relationship that is abusive and you need to get out, make a plan, a secret plan. Let someone know what your plan is that you can trust, that preferably maybe doesn't know your abuser, or someone that you know you can trust, a family member that is going to keep your secret. Reach out to your local domestic violence shelters, your resources in your area. The national number for domestic violence hotline is 1-800-799-7233. You're probably going to show that on your podcast. I don't know if I needed to say it. And then I also want to say that you can text 988 for help. Also for centers of addictions and resources. Mental health advocacies, to advocate and get help for any mental health issues that you have and the stigma that comes with mental health issues. Okay, so I definitely want to plug like national numbers for mental health, national number for domestic violence, and national number for addictions, and the 988 that you can text from any phone and let people know how to get help on all those resources. It's so important to have someone that you can confide in, or to find your local recovery meetings, whether you want to do AA or you want to do NA, it doesn't matter, your local church. Reach out to someone and make a plan, keep a plan that is secret and specific, and you deserve to be happy. You do not deserve to be controlled. You do not deserve to be told when you can eat, what you can eat, how much money you can spend, where you can spend your money, what clothes you wear, what makeup you wear, what friends you have, what family members you can associate with, etc. Like, all of those are not just red flags. They are giant explosives. Run.
What inspired you to write your book, and how can listeners support you and your work?
So in my life, I was born with a father who was extremely abusive, and I dealt with that and love and hate for him. So my evil monster hero. And then at the age of 7, I was sexually abused for the first time by my oldest sister's boyfriend. And then whenever I was in 3rd grade, I was spending the night with my best friend, and I woke up to her stepdad touching me. And I actually got away that night. When I woke up to him touching me, I acted like I was asleep, but that I was waking up, and he crawled out of the room, and whenever he left the room, I ran out the door and ran home to my mom and woke her up in the middle of the night. The next day, my mother took me to an attorney. The next thing I knew, he was arrested. We went to court. It was around my 5th grade year. I went to court and I testified against him. And I didn't cry because I didn't have a reason to cry. God knew he was guilty. God knew he touched me. God knew he was wrong. All I had to do was get on the stand and tell my story, right? Right. Well, he was found not guilty. And I promise you I started crying then. I literally, could not believe that they found him not guilty. It was it made me so enraged with anger. It was like I had no idea that God would let this man be found not guilty. I was so angry. So angry. I was so angry, and I had to walk down the courthouse steps past him and his buddies as they were high-fiving each other and hugging each other and congratulating him with getting away with touching me. I remember kicking my mom's dashboard all the way back from court, and just that really traumatized me because I thought all I had to do was tell the truth. I will tell you right now that he got caught later. He got caught just not very long after that, maybe a year or two after that, with a very small child, I believe around the age of 3. And I will say that Ronald Mowry is a registered sex offender. Last known lived in Nevada. The state. I believe Vegas even. I'm really furious that he was even able to be free to touch that little girl, because he should have been convicted of what he did to me. And so a lot of my anger and a lot of my issues that I have dealt with in my life are because of my very earliest traumas. I believe that is the reason why I made excuses for my ex-husband. I was normal to violence. I thought that I was strong enough to handle it. I thought that I knew everything. I thought that if I just kept him sober, we would have this perfect family, and every day would be Draper Family Fun Day. And I was wrong. I was very wrong. And I was very wrong when I believed that he wanted to get out of prison and do the right thing, because he doesn't. The truth is, he doesn't want anyone to speak on his crime. The truth is, he wants to get out of prison and live his very best life. He has spent all of these years in there working out and becoming the most healthy version of himself. Whenever I am out of breath walking up and down stairs because I battle respiratory issues with COPD, I can't go in the sun. One of my very favorite things to do is to go swimming and go fishing. I'm a Pisces. I love the water. I love being outside, and that's not even a part of my life anymore. I don't even go outside, because if I go outside on a regular normal day that everybody is attending a function at the park, it literally burns my skin. I don't know if I finished telling the story earlier or if I got cut off, but at one point in 2015, when I was living in a hotel and I was homeless and I was drinking, I just decided one day the sun is not going to beat me, and I went swimming for maybe 45 minutes to an hour, and my whole back turned into giant blisters, and I mean, it was basically like being in the burn unit again. I actually had my children to bring my back for me with Dial soap and a really clean hot soapy rag. I would have them scrub at my back, and I would lay on my stomach and have to let it air dry, and I would do that twice a day, and it took me 2 or 3 weeks to heal that. So I know for a fact that I cannot just go out here and go swimming like I used to when I was a kid. It was my favorite thing to do. I really miss things like that. Like, it bothers me that no matter what's going on, like, if I want to plan a trip and take my family to the ocean, like, there's issues there. And that makes me mad. It makes me sad. It really frustrates me because I'm such a controlling person, and it's like the things that I really want to do that he has stopped me from doing because of his actions, that's forever while I'm on this earth. I know it's not forever ever because I do have a special place in heaven, and I'll probably be sitting there with my fishing pole with a huge smile on my face, enjoying the sun. Wouldn't that be amazing? So all of this inspired me to write my story because I know what a crazy, psycho miracle I am to even be here. It is absolutely a miracle that I'm here. It is absolutely a miracle that my physical appearance is the way that it is. My looks don't matter to me because I know what it feels like to walk into a room and have someone look at you and ask you if you've been in a meth lab explosion. I know what it feels like for my kids to come home crying because other kids at school were teasing them about me and what I looked like and calling me Freddy Krueger. So I wrote my story because I wanted everyone else in the world to know that you can really make it through anything. God will bring you through. If you're alive right now and you're listening to this, you have a purpose. And your purpose is real. I personally feel like my purpose is to give God the glory of what he has brought me through. Because there is no scientific reason as to why I'm here. There's not. I did everything the doctors told me not to. And look at me. Alive. Heroes and Monsters was published in 2022. It is available on Amazon in paperback, Kindle, and Audible. It is available worldwide. I do autograph copies and send them out. I'm not able to at this time as I have no income. Once I do get my next check on my books, that will probably come the end of May, beginning of June, I will be able to start shipping books again. And I can't wait to hear other stories, and because it's other survivors that have inspired me. So I have to share my story. It's what I owe God. Because that's what he wants me to do. It is footprints in the sand. And we all have free will on this earth. Antonio had the free will to set me on fire, but God said, "You will not take my child. And not only will you not take my child, let me make her a beautiful miracle so that you can see that you did not touch her. Not in the ways he wanted to." Thank you so much. I'm Hannah Kendrick on Facebook. I'm Hannah Kendrick 205 on TikTok. And I'm here if you need me. I am going to spend the rest of my life advocating, not just for myself, but for others, because there is a great need for it. God is gathering his children to testify to what he has the power to do and his love that he has for us and the purpose that we have. If you have breath in you, you have purpose. I don't care if they told you that you're gonna die tonight. They don't know what they're talking about. My mother, in October of 2020, She had been dealing with respiratory failure and pulmonary edema. And they looked at me and my stepdad, Pawpaw, and they told us and my mom that she had to be on a ventilator or she was going to die later on that day. And she looked at him and said she was not going on a ventilator. She wanted to go home. And by God, she went home. And my mother was with us until November 3rd of 2021, until God called her home. Thank you so much. I am currently living my best life with all three of my children that are adults in my house. I have an almost 8-month-old grandbaby and a new grandbaby coming in September. And I am super excited to see what the best life... I'm super excited to live my best life. And I'm super excited to do whatever God wants me to do. And I'm going to get out of my own way and just let Him use me like He wants to. It is amazing to have the ability to reach so many people. I am beyond grateful and honored to be here on your podcast. I want people to know that even though you look at someone as a hero, that person may very well end up being a monster. And that people are capable of both good and bad. I personally, like I said, I feel like a monster at times, and now I feel more of the heroism. And that's just what I wanted to stress. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time here at the end. Heroes and monsters come in every form. They come as your parents. They come as your husband, your wife, your significant other, your children, your cousin, your brother, your sister, your neighbor. They come in every form. And what some people are capable of in this world is truly horrific.
Thank you, Hannah, for opening up to us. Your story shows us the courage it takes to heal and the importance of standing against domestic violence. To our listeners, if Hannah's story touched you, please support her by checking out her book, Heroes and Monsters. You can also learn more about Hannah's journey by visiting our website, truecrimeavenue.com, where we've shared a blog post about her story. You can check the description for more details. If you have a story you'd like to share, we're here to help you tell it. Reach out to us via email at truecrimeavenueblog@gmail.com, and we'll work with you to share your story. Thank you for tuning in to Candid Conversations by True Crime Avenue. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others, subscribe, and leave us a review. Your support helps us share more stories like Hannah's. Until next time, take care and stay safe.